want to share with your listeners out there, step by step, things don't just happen overnight. You got to get out there and do things like listening to a podcast like this one right here. It's going to open doors and opportunities to learn things you never knew before. Charlie Tremendous Jones once said, the only difference between the person you are today and the person you're going to be 5 years from now are the books you read and the people you meet. The Martial Arts Academy built it up through that countless ups and downs, just with business that's, you don't really know what you're doing. It was a money-losing hobby for the longest time until I took it serious as a business. I was a PE teacher during the day for 11 years, been an athlete all my life, and I've tried to mix the best of both worlds there. I not only learned the lessons, but also to share those lessons that I've learned through the hardships and through the trial and error and the failures. And
hey, everybody. Thanks for joining the Seven Figure Secrets podcast. Jennifer Waters here. I'm joined by my co-host, Tommy Siegler. Yeah. And we have our guest today, Mr. Rich Grogan. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. Jennifer, Tommy, thank you so very much for the opportunity. I'm blessed and honored to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know that you're a speaker. You're an award-winning author. You've worked with a lot of big names. Tom Siegler, that's Zig Ziglar's son. Lots of different people that you have interacted with. It's crazy. So tell everybody a little bit about who you are and how you got into all of this. I'd love for the audience to know a little bit more.
Well, thank you very much once again for having me on the show. And it's one of those that you think, well, I don't want to be the name dropper guy, but I also want to be humble by not doing that. But the second part, I want to share with your listeners out there, step by step, things don't just happen overnight. An opportunity to be, when I've been listening to Zig Ziglar forever, opportunity to become friends with Tom Siegler and his business partner, Howard Partridge, who my oldest son, Austin, now works for. Amazing. But you got to get out there and do things like listening to a podcast like this one right here. It's going to open doors and opportunities to learn things you never knew before. That's why you got to remain humble and willing to learn. But two, you got to get out there and meet people, because you never know what doors and opportunities that's going to open up. And I tell you that simply because I like to say up until 2012, I didn't know I could read because I chose not to read. And, Charlie Tremendous Jones once said, the only difference between the person you are today and the person you're going to be 5 years from now are the books you read and the people you meet. And that's life-changing. So after hearing that, I was like, well, I need to start going out and doing these things. And I've been to countless John Maxwell conferences. Chris Widener has become a close personal friend. He worked with Zig Ziglar and Jim Rome, and then, of course, Tom Siegler and just countless others by simply taking that step of getting out there. But it all starts with humility. And Socrates once said, all I know is I know nothing. And by having that humble approach, and in martial arts, it's our black belt principles we created for our martial arts academy. Humility was the first one, and it was there to help others. But it was also everything I try and put together is because it's something I was working on or struggled with myself. So what I've done, I owned a martial arts academy for almost 30 years. I've been in martial arts since I was 9 years old. Been blessed and honored to travel to Korea 4 different times and do extensive training in South Korea. Chuck Norris is a brother in the martial arts. The primary style is Tung Sido Mudokwan. So his senior instructor was my instructor's senior instructor. So that's kind of a cool lineage there. But the Martial Arts Academy built it up, and through that, countless ups and downs, just with business that's, you don't really know what you're doing. It was a money-losing hobby for the longest time until I took it serious as business. I was a PE teacher during the day for 11 years, been an athlete all my life, and I've tried to mix the best of both worlds there. I not only learned the lessons, but also to share those lessons that I've learned through the hardships and through the trial and error and the failures. And I'm not a very big person. I'm 5'7", so I've always been that underdog. So I had that underdog fighter spirit, and tying all that in together, I'm telling you, it opens doors. But just like anything, you got to be willing to walk through that door, willing to take that first step. That journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, and then the second one, then the third one. But you got to keep going. Doesn't mean it gets easier, but it all starts with that first one, and you get that momentum going. That's what helps drives and pushes you through, and then your daily discipline has to stay engaged.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I try to ask everybody where they started. How did they get involved in the martial arts? What drew you to the martial arts? I know you said you started at a young age. Did your parents put you in and just say, I'm going to put you in here and you're going to do this whether you don't want to do it or not, or you watch movies and saw characters in the movies? Tell us how you got involved.
Yeah, well, Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee. I I love watching those. And it was always a very small, we grew up poor on a farm. So even at a very young age, I had chores like hand milking our cow. And for those out there, and this is something Zig would always say, cows don't freely give milk. You are every single drop. And so that was a learning lesson at a young age, shoveling horse poop out of the stalls in the barn and then baling hay. I guess growing up on a farm was different than most. So it was an easy target for most bullying. I mean, I remember a lot of kids would say, "What's that smell?" "Oh, that's Richie. He smells like cow poop. He's so poor he can't even afford milk." And I mean, it's just those things. But I didn't, I had a big heart, and I couldn't understand why kids were doing this. So martial arts I told my parents I wanted to get into it. There was a thing in a church, started taking it there, and I got involved in a pretty good altercation. I kind of packed all that anger and frustration in, and then it came out one day, and I really hurt a kid, and then I had to stop martial arts because parents thought I was only learning to beat people up, and that wasn't the case. The case was, and it's something I talk about a lot with bullying, it sooner or later it comes out, and it comes out in a very explosive way. That's why still to this day, always advocating martial arts as a way not only to learn how to protect yourself, but also a way to let that steam out because you're hitting equipment, this and that, as opposed to packing it all in, and then the pressure cooker explodes and something tragic happens. So how I got started, wanted to learn how to protect myself, and I was always a smaller person, and of course Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee were a big part of that.
Yeah, it sounds like, Dad's story similar, got bullied as a kid too.
Yeah.
Got started in martial arts. And I think that what you mentioned there was like you were already working really hard as a kid. Like, you weren't sitting on your butt doing nothing. You were working hard, and then getting bullied in school. I mean, like, did that impact your self-esteem as well?
Yeah, Jen, my self-esteem was nothing. I mean, it was literally, I had no belief in myself. I grew up, my dad was a wounded Vietnam vet. He was 101st Airborne in 68, 69. He actually provided mortar support to Hamburger Hill, and
Wow.
he was only one of two survivors. He was left for dead and then found a couple days later. So I didn't even know about these stories. I'd always ask him as a kid, "Dad, tell me about it." And he once said, "Richie, everybody called me Richie as a kid. Parents still do. "Richie, do you enjoy reliving your worst nightmares?" I'm like, "Well, of course not." He goes, "Neither do I. Don't ask again." I'm like, "Oh."
Mhm.
But I one year for Christmas, I just asked my mom, a weird time, but at Christmas, I went, "Mom, you just got to tell me what Dad went through." And that was only a handful of 3 or 4 years ago. And of course, I loved my dad, and I was fearful of my dad, and I respected him, but I don't know that I respected him as much as I probably should have. Due to, well, it was always, why the heck do I got to do all these chores? The city boys, as Dad would call them, they didn't have to take out trash. And here I am handling hay bales that weighed more than I do, hand milking a gosh darn cow and shoveling horse poop, and I'm getting bullied. What's going on here? But Grandma and my mom were always about having that big heart. Their thing was better to trust everybody and only be wrong a few times and deal with it. My dad was don't trust anybody, and then you'll never get hurt. So I had those yin and yang kind of going on at all times. And anytime I was being bullied, he's like, "Well, it's because you're not tough enough. You need to toughen up. I guess I'm not giving you enough work on the farm." So I realize now, and I say I love my dad more than anything. I really do. He did the best he could do. He only had a 7th grade education. He quit in 8th grade and then seemed to stabilize his life, and then got shipped off to Vietnam, and he's been unfortunately a mess since then. But he did the best he could do with the knowledge he had. He just knew the life was a rough place, and it's kind of like that Johnny Cash song. And Tommy, you may know it, "A Boy Named Sue."
Oh, yeah.
And the story was a boy named Richie growing up.
I identified with that song a lot growing up too. I think it's crazy. So, oh my goodness. So you founded Warrior Confidence, which I'm going to ask you about that. And I'm going to ask you also about this goal you have to impact the lives of 1 million elite high achievers. Now, I can see maybe impacting the lives of 1 million people in a certain period of time, but 1 million high achievers, that's amazing. Share about the Warrior Confidence, and share about this goal, this big, hairy, audacious goal that you have to
BHAG, baby. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. And that's the reason for it. And for your listeners out there, I once heard a speaker say, the problem with goal setting is not that you set the goal too high and miss. The problem with most people is you set the goal too low and you hit it, and then you're done. So to me, it's not that it's an unattainable goal, but it's a goal that's going to continuously drive me to keep questing and driving. Now, I guess the other side of that is, more than some, a lot of days it can get very intimidating. As far as, man, you'll have a setback, you'll have a week or even a month that just doesn't go your way, and you'll start to question yourself and that goal. But by, I guess, planning it so high, and I may never reach it. I don't know. But once again, I'd rather, shoot for the moon and land in the stars than just shoot for the roof of my house and end up hitting it. So continuously striving and driving for more. But the Warrior Confidence brand, actually, we had a martial arts academy, Grogan's Academy of Martial Arts, for nearly 30 years. And I sold that to my senior student, and then we moved to Florida. Now, for the longest time, I was going to pass that on to my kids. And I achieved all kinds of accolades. We became Business of the Year in our small community. I'd given, goodness gracious, probably in the neighborhood of 500 different speeches to schools. I'm talking grade schools, high schools, colleges, any Chamber of Commerce event they asked, we're going there. And of course, that helped build up our reputation in the community, which funded, people would come to the studio. And it was good, and I was kind of coasting along, to be honest with you. The studio was running well, but I just felt like there was a bigger calling out there. I just didn't know what it was. And, and unfortunately, COVID came along, and our studio was moving right along, and then bang, COVID sets in, and we lose half our students. So I had to go back to the good old work ethic of the farm days, started doing the Zoom classes, and I'm doing daily workout trainings at the studio, just all live streamed through our Facebook page, and then doing PE classes. And then, about 3 months in, we went ahead and opened back up. It was in Illinois, a little risky. Actually got letters from the health department threatening to throw me in jail and everything else for opening back up. But I felt in my heart I was doing the right thing because I felt kids needed some kind of outlet. Now, we still did the Zoom, so people didn't have to come. Well, before we knew it, more and more people are coming and saying, hey, this is the kind of leadership we want, standing up for what you believe in and helping these kids. And well, it was another, I guess, battle we had to fight. And the studio built up, and my wife says, you know what, we've been talking about, we love the beaches. Let's take a chance here. Let's sell it to our senior student. Let's move to Florida, and let's do, kind of reach into your Warrior Confidence brand, which was kind of a dream at the time. It never really, because I was doing the Martial Arts Academy, and then our other brand was Grogan's Bully Proof, all about the books and teaching practical self-defense, teaching self-confidence, belief in yourself, and all those virtues that I know that I struggled with as a kid. And then the Warrior Confidence brand came out of that, and what it really represents, confidence, regardless where, and I talk a lot about sports. Well, hockey goalies, one night they can stop 50 shots and be on cloud. I mean, they're flying high. The next night they give up 5 goals on 5 shots. Well, they're the same person, but their confidence is a roller coaster ride. Well, Warrior Confidence is all about, that confidence is going to come and go, but you've got the attitude, you got the spirit, you got the mindset, you got that work ethic of an underdog to drive that inner warrior out to be who you're born to be, to overcome any challenges that may come and may come your way. Because it's, as Rocky says, it's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. So that's kind of the Warrior Confidence. And then my high school I went to was called the Granite City Warriors. So I'm like, holy smokes. And then you had martial arts in there. So you're brainstorming for ideas. It's like, that's it, yes. But it took, I don't know how many pages and pages of notes to come to that conclusion. Although when it happened, it's like, oh yeah, that's the magic recipe for me.
Man, that's a lot of great stuff right there. And that's so many great nuggets of truth right there in that. And, this podcast is for martial arts school owners, people that are interested in building up a very successful school. You did that. You've made it through one of the hardest times. I mean, I think everybody who had a school open during that time, one of 2 things happened. They either closed the school or, 3 things. They either closed the school, they either survived just barely, or they pivoted hard and they figured out how to make it work. And it sounds like you did that pivot. I know we did too. It was such an upside down experience. And I'm grateful for all the opportunities I've had in martial arts to go through really hard things physically, because I think going through COVID wasn't necessary for us, it wasn't necessarily that we were impacted physically and beyond sick and couldn't get out of the bed or anything like that, but it was such a mental, I don't even know, mental stress, mental challenge, like all those things. How did you leverage and utilize the things that you've done in your life to get through that time? And, I think other people could benefit from just the strategies around what you did to get through a difficult time.
And that's a great question, Jennifer. I'm definitely happy that I can help out, hopefully others, because there's one thing that's sure in life: battle's going to come. And obviously, COVID snuck up on all of us. And one of my hashtags is right hook of reality, and it hit us and it dropped us. But I went back to, we never know why we face the struggles we do, right? As a kid, being bullied all the time, not really ever believing in myself. Why in the world I had all these chores on the farm, as I mentioned, and the city boys, as Dad would call them, didn't even have to take out the gosh darn trash. Well, I always believe you're being conditioned for something later in life. We're faced with these challenges. A champion is not someone who's never failed. A champion is someone who's failed often, but never gave up. They kept getting back up each and every time, building that resilience. And I talked about humility being the number one black belt principle we had. Well, the other one on the tail end was perseverance. So when I put those black belt principles together, I had the bookends. I had humility because I know I needed to work on it. I'm sure there's others that did as well. And then perseverance, to me, that was the foundational piece. That was the other bookend, because once again, it's not a matter of if you're going to get knocked down. It's a matter of how many times you're going to get knocked down and if you're going to choose to get back up. And every day, I believe we're working one of two muscles. And I'm not talking about these. I'm talking about your perseverance muscles or your give up and quit muscles. And whichever muscles you work the most are the ones that are going to pretty much control your life, and the ones that are going to dictate what you do in times of struggle. And, getting back up each and every time layers that perseverance foundation. So when you get back up, you've got a more solid foundation to stand upon. The COVID experience, it was, what the heck just happened here? Because we had, the months planned out and it was supposed to be 14 days to flatten the curve. Okay. I didn't want to shut down, but I don't know. I mean, who knows we didn't know what was going on, just like the rest of the world. So we planned out, all right, we're going to be shut for 14 days. I'm going to do daily videos every single day. I'm going to record the curriculum. We had the curriculum, I guess the pieces of it recorded for our students. But I went up and we said, okay, it's our green tip stripe for whatever month it was. I'm going to record this every single day. Get on here with me on Facebook Live, and we're going to do these. I had no idea what Zoom was, never even heard of it prior to that. And then, of course, I started digging in, doing research. Well, Zoom's the way to go. All right, I'll figure this out. So I went and learned how to use Zoom, and that's what they use. But it was all about finding a way. Once again, either just throwing my hands up and saying it's over, or getting back in there and fight. Now, in all honesty, there's a little bully in your mind, or in my mind, that was saying, this is it, just give up, you're done, you're over with. Well, it's the same doggone bully that told me my whole life that I was too small, too short, too dumb, not big enough, not strong enough. You might as well give up because everybody's telling you to give up. And once again, we have the will. We can listen to that bully and give up, or we can battle that bully and use our perseverance muscles and battle through. And essentially, that's what we did. And that's the choices we have to make every single day. We're not going to feel like it every day. Like going to the gym, we're not going to feel like it. A lot of times we're not going to want to go. Matter of fact, this morning, I play men's hockey now on Tuesday nights, and I didn't get home last night from the rink till midnight. All the men's games are the late ones after the kids are done, right? Didn't feel like getting up this morning. They're bullying, well, you're tired, you work, I had a rough game last night, you're not going. So what I do is, when I have my workout clothes already set out, I just grab them, and I work out with my neighbor across the street. He's a military guy. I didn't even put my shoes on. I just walked over there, because if I sit down to put my shoes on, that bully in mine is going to have extra time to chirp and tell me. So that's just a way of defeating that bully. Mel Robbins wrote a great book, The 5-Second Rule. I don't know if you read that. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off, just do it. Yeah. And so that book's well served in regards to defeating that bully. Don't give it a chance to chirp anymore. Just shut it down.
Well, wow. I think one of the things that, I would consider myself a high achiever, and I know you're working with a ton of high achievers. So are there certain mindsets? Are there certain things that you see that are common denominators that high achievers get stuck with when you're working with them?
Yeah, and I apologize, Tommy. I did never address your question. The big, hairy, audacious goal of $1 million there. The biggest thing, and the reason, and that's another niche down. I tried for too many years to be everything to everyone. So those, especially our martial arts studio, I'll tell you a quick little story on, and sometimes it takes me, I'm a little bit of a slow learner, 2 or 3 knockdowns to think, what the heck am I doing here? Come on now. When we were first kind of trying to build the academy, I was with the organization I was with, like I mentioned, the Tungsten Mudokwan, same organization Chuck Norris started off with for, my gosh, 25, 26 years. And so we followed their curriculum for a while. And then our core values kind of started to part ways. It hurt. It was painful. But in 2014, we decided to step away from the organization. And I believe in the Bruce Lee philosophy. You take everything in, you disregard what's not yours, what's not unique, what doesn't align with your core values. And my core values are honor, integrity, discipline, and respect. I don't believe in giving kids belts. I don't believe in giving anything out. I believe in earned, because sooner or later, you're going to have to prove your merit, prove your worth. And if you're given something you didn't work for, you didn't earn, you're going to know in your heart that it's fake, it's cheap, it's not real. And when it comes time to either protect yourself with a physical confrontation, or when it comes time for you to rely on the strength that is artificially made, you're not going to have it. So that was the big part of, and I don't want to speak negatively of the organization I was with, but I felt like they were moving in a path of giving belts away, and that hurt my heart. And so we kind of moved away from that. They were having, 2 and 3 year black belt programs, and some people have that, and that's fine. My belief is it should take you 6 to 7 years of learning, because you're not just getting a different color belt. You're learning to uphold the honor, integrity, discipline, respect within yourself in order to represent that in what you do in everything in life. So, but anyway, back to the question of the high achievers, or I'm sorry, with the Martial Arts Academy, I was searching for all of that. In other words, somebody would come into the academy and say, well, you know what, if you had more boxing, then I would sign up. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm going to add that. Okay. So I spent 2 or 3 days adding a few different boxing things into the curriculum. And then that person wouldn't sign up. But I just changed the whole doggone curriculum. Like, okay, all right. Somebody else would come in. Well, if you had more jiu-jitsu in there, and I've taken my share of jiu-jitsu classes, I'm by all means not anywhere close to being any high rank in jiu-jitsu. But once again, I took everything in. I studied countless different martial arts. So I worked that in there. Well, they trained for a month or 2. That's really not for me. And they left. Next thing, somebody come in, well, if you had more of this in there. And by the 3rd time, I'm thinking, what the heck am I doing? Well, what I was doing, and I say this to our martial arts friends out there, is when you try to be everything to everyone, you end up being nothing to no one, and you turn your back on your core. So once again, honor, integrity, discipline, respect are my core values. 15 years ago, it's not that I didn't have any core values, but they weren't in stone. They're in stone now, meaning somebody comes in at our academy, the first 2 weeks, it was what we call our confidence building course. They got a t-shirt to be a part of the class, but they had to earn their uniform by not only what they did at the studio, but the parents had a list they had to sign off on as if the kid was doing that at home as well. And then they had an opportunity to earn their uniform. Nothing was given. And I remember one incident, we had somebody the very second day they came, they had a uniform on. And I asked the dad, I said, sir, where did Johnny get his uniform? Well, I bought it for him. I said, well, if we didn't explain it very well what our principles are, we want them to earn the uniform. And he said, well, I want him to be a part of the class. I said, he is. That's why he's got his t-shirt. Everybody goes through the process. And he goes, well, I bought it for him, so he's going to wear it. Now, 20 years ago, I probably would have said, oh, all right, because I couldn't pay the bills anyway, so this extra few bucks of tuition would help. But I was sacrificing my core values, but I didn't have them in place back then. That happened, and with this gentleman, and I said, sir, I tell you what, let's do this. After class, we're going to go to the front desk. I'm going to go ahead and get you a refund for your confidence course because we're not the right place for you. And he says, are you kicking me out? I said, no, sir, I'm not kicking you out. But if we can't follow our principles and our core values on the second day of class, this isn't going to work for either one of us. And once again, 20 years ago, I probably would not have done that because I needed, quote, quote, needed students. When you're in desperation mode, you're going to get the wrong students. When you're in, here's my core values, it's a slow grow, but you're going to attract the right students. You're going to build the reputation and the foundation that you want. and the right people are going to come to you in order to grow what is your core values, and word will get around town. And it doesn't mean you're not for everyone, but it does mean you've got to be right for the people that are right for you, and you will attract those people. So back to the BHAG of helping high achievers. Unfortunately, not everybody's a high achiever. I want to help as many people as I possibly can, but I can't do it for them. Just like I always thought with training students, I'm going to train them in a way because I can't be with them all the time. I can't be with them at school. I can't be with them if they're at a party. I can't be with them if they're at college or wherever they're at, but I want to instill in them that belief in themselves that they know what's right and wrong. And if they make the wrong choice, then they got to pay a consequence for it. But I want them to know how to not only defend themselves, but how to make the right choice. So high achievers, we've all been knocked down, but we've achieved a level of success. We know how to do it, but we get stuck. And when we get stuck, we need someone to ignite that warrior spirit and bring it out. And that's kind of what the high achievers.
Yeah, really, really. So you mentioned a little earlier in one of the questions that we asked, you mentioned John Maxwell and leadership. And I have studied and become a certified coach, a speaker, and trainer for John Maxwell Group. It's called Maxwell Leadership now. And there's a lot of people out there that think they know what leadership is all about. Let's get your take on that, because it's more than just standing up in front of people and teaching a class. That's what we call level 1 leadership. That's a positional leadership. But with you being with Zig Ziglar's organization and all of that, let's hear your leadership philosophy on that end. Be very interesting.
Absolutely. And I look on my bookshelf here. I bet there's 25 books I got from John Maxwell, and I've had the opportunity to meet him a couple times. My oldest son, Austin, who works for Tom Siegler and Howard Partridge, he just was last month. John Maxwell and Deion Sanders were in Orlando, Florida. And Austin with Tom and Howard got an opportunity to go to that event and meet and get a picture taken with John Maxwell and Zig Ziglar, or with Deion Sanders. So that was kind of awesome. But my interpretation of leadership, and like you said, it's unfortunately, it seems that just like anything, leadership, almost like the bigger that grows, the more watered down it becomes. Example I was once told when I was over in Korea was back in the day, of course, it's always the day, the martial arts used to be this, this, and this. The example they gave, and I also use this example for leadership, and unfortunately a lot of times with martial arts, is when your great-great-grandmother made chili, that chili was full of meat, beans, it was hearty, it was thick, it had substance, baby. Well, as that chili recipe got passed down through generations, now we got water and beans, and we're calling that chili. It's lost the substance, right? The heart, the integrity, the passion, the honor is gone. What the heck happened to it? And unfortunately, I think, as you said, Tommy, that standing in front of people is not necessarily leadership. If you've got nobody following you, you're not a leader. You're just going for a walk on your own, right? I think Hans mentioned that many times in a lot of his books. My interpretation, and I like to think of leadership, it starts with that honor and that integrity. Honor is honoring what you know, who you know, honoring yourself, honoring those that came before you, but honoring your word. And integrity is standing up for what you believe in, even if you're standing alone. Integrity, and I got this from my mentor, Chris Widener. He said, if you look at integrity, the root word of integrity is integer. Integer is a whole being. A whole being is all in or all out, meaning you don't have integrity here, but not here. You either have it or you don't have it. One of the things I like to do at presentations is say, hey, who thinks the world would be a much, much better place if we had more integrity in our schools, in our martial arts academies, in our law enforcement, in our communities, in our government? Who thinks it would be so much better if we had that integrity? Well, every hand in the place goes up. Yes. All right, now, here's the $1 million question. Who in this room thinks they have an integrity problem? Well, no hands go up. So I say, well, this room, just like the last 3 rooms I was in, we got it figured out. We just got to make sure the rest of the world has it figured out, or we're not being honest with ourselves. So true leadership to me is that integrity. You are who you say you are. You are where you say you're going to be. You do what you say you're going to do, regardless if you feel like doing it or not. You're standing up during the tough times. You're standing up for what is right. You're standing up for what you believe in, and you're following along your true path. But we can't be a true leader if we don't have I keep going back to our core values, because that was such a, because somebody once asked, it's 15 years ago or so, hey, what are your core values? Well, I'd never even thought of it before.
Yeah.
I went home and worked on it. And once again, honor, integrity, discipline, respect, and what I call core 4. And without them, there's no way, because you're over here, you're over here, you're over here, you're over here. You're trying to do everything for everyone. So stay true to that. And to me, leadership is staying true to who you are, your core values, and doing what you say you're going to do. But it all starts with integrity. And that's my humble opinion.
Oh, that's awesome. That's, right on, spot on.
I think what's interesting is we have 4 core values in our school, and also in Seven Figure Dojo, our company where we work with the school and academy owners to help them. And our 4 core values, I've never heard integrity being referred to being all in. But what's interesting is, like, our core value, our number 1 core value is all in. We start every meeting. Every meeting is, you got to be all in. And then the second is extreme ownership. The third is always learning. And the fourth is great, not good. So we try to take these big words, because sometimes, like you just did with integrity, you broke it down. But we don't do that, like, in the day-to-day life, right? And especially if you're communicating with, I would consider myself young, but if you're communicating to younger people, they really don't know, right? So, like, teenagers, high schoolers, they don't know what these big words mean. So very, very cool on that. I know you've written books and you're doing coaching as well, but you started alluding to this, like narrowing down your niche. You've narrowed down your niche a lot now, right? Hockey, is that? Yeah.
Well, I want to go back, Jennifer. I think what you've done there is genius, because honor, integrity, discipline, respect. Yeah, we've all heard those words, but to younger crowd, those are big words that they don't know what they mean. So it takes the time. I think what you've done, though, is broke them down to what your audience can digest, and then you can expand on that. So all our other martial arts academy schools out there, obviously you come up with your own, what I say, core 4, and come up with how they best relate to what you're doing and who you're talking to. Because at the end of the day, I always felt the best communicators are the ones that can talk to their intended audience on a level that their audience understands. You're not talking down to them to make them feel bad. You're not talking up to them. You're talking to them. You're communicating with them, which to me is such almost a lost art. We've got these devices here, and they allow us to communicate with anyone across the world, like what we're doing right now, right?
Yeah.
But the actual communication, talking one-on-one to someone or looking in someone's eyes and talking to them, has been unfortunately lost. One of the things we do at the Martial Arts Academy is teaching kids from day one how to properly shake hands, how to make eye contact, how to say yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, hi, my name is, and so forth. It was one of the things we would have the kids go around and they had to shake hands with at least 3 people at the Martial Arts Academy. Now, the little kids would just have them work with their mom and dad and brother and sister. But as they move forward, would say, okay, now that you're a green belt, I want you to shake hands with somebody you've never met before, but I want you to make eye contact. Now, once again, in the Martial Arts Academy, and we'd warn them, look, I'm not telling you advocate and go out and talk to strangers, but I am saying I want you to know how to communicate, to talk to your teacher or your coach, and respect and communication is a lost art. So that was, Jennifer, what you did there with your core 4 is genius. I really like that.
Yeah. And where is this tying you now into, like, the hockey and coaching? And because you were in martial arts and you're still a martial artist, but you're not necessarily doing things all the time.
Yeah. So what's the niche down? It can, every time I start to, and my greatest strength is I've got a ton of energy. I was never diagnosed as a kid with ADD or ADHD, because back in the 70s, I don't think it was a thing. But my dad's cure for ADD or ADHD or my hyperactivities was to get outside and shovel horse poop, right?
Yeah.
That energy. That's my greatest strength, because I've got a lot of go, but it's also, and this is from, once again, my mentor, Chris Widener. He says, your greatest strength can quickly, if not checked, become your greatest weakness, because it can burn out of control. So having a very creative mind is a wonderful thing, but if that mind starts to wonder, and I'm no longer focused on what I should be focused on, then I've got trouble brewing because I'm all over the doggone place. So by niching it down, for when I sold the Martial Arts Academy, and always be a martial artist, like I said, it's been 40 plus years now, blessed with the achievements that I've earned and worked hard for, and the amount of lives I've touched and impacted. But I just felt in my heart there was more. You know, God was saying, look, man, I gave you this gift. You've done well in a small little community. You become a big fish in a small pond. Let's see how you do in the real world. It's almost like a challenge. I challenge you to move away, 1,100 miles away from where you were. And I still go back quite often to help out my senior instructor. I was just back there last month for black belt testing. But take your message to a bigger audience. So I thought for the last 2.5, 3 years, I've been really focusing on, quote, quote, entrepreneurs and high achievers. Well, it was entrepreneurs, and then I niched it down to high achievers. And now I've niched it down even more. Here in Florida, hockey is bigger than I ever imagined. Now, my first dream was to be a pro hockey player. But at 17, I realized it wasn't going to happen. At 19, I really swallowed the bitter pill. I mean, I was only like 5'5", 5'6" at that time. I weighed 120 pounds with equipment on. And you got middle linebackers and on skates, speed, and that's always worked on. But it just wasn't going to happen. So I was still in martial arts, but that's when I went all into martial arts. And at 19 years old, I said, when my NHL career that never started ended, I said, I'm going to own a martial arts academy. And that I happened to watch Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme. And I got oh yeah, that's it. This is what I'm going to do. And so it was always there, and I still coached, and I got a degree in kinesiology. It's a study of human movement. So I was a PE teacher for 11 years. So I taught PE during the day, kind of grew the martial arts academy, and still coached my kids' sports, and still played competitive myself as much as I could. But with the studio, I had stopped playing competitive hockey for quite some time, simply because I was all in on the martial arts. After I sold that, we moved to Florida, found out hockey was bigger than I could ever imagine down here, because a lot of NHLers have moved here for the warm weather and golf, and hockey's blown up here. My wife kept saying, you love hockey. You're playing hockey again. You're coaching a couple teams. Just niche down. And because when it all comes down to, I am nothing but a big or little kid trapped in this adult big kid body. Who do I connect most with and best with is teenage athletes. And I'm trying to be the mentor to them that I always wanted and needed in my life, to give me that hope, to give me that faith, to give me that self-confidence, and now warrior confidence, to believe in myself, to battle through adversity and challenges, to stand out from the crowd, knowing if I'm blending in with the crowd and the crowd's doing wrong, well, I'm just as guilty as I'm with them. But having that integrity to stand out, having that integrity to put forth the work ethic, having that integrity to communicate properly with a coach, having that respect for myself, my coach, my team, to do what I say I'm going to do. If I say that I'm going to work out off the ice, then I'm doing it. If I say I'm a leader, I am the first one on the ice, the last one to leave, and kind of own all in. So what I've taken, like I said, the Bruce Lee philosophy earlier, everything that I've learned from the martial arts, everything that I've learned from being a coach and being a player, and now blending that together with our hockey program. And here's actually, I'll tease, it's brand new actually. It's how to get more ice time. And it's a booklet. I did a master class and a booklet on that, and it focuses around 3 core values: respect, work ethic, and communication. And not only for the players, but for the parents as well. And so essentially, as you mentioned, Jen, I've niched down more and more and more and more. And another mentor of mine keeps telling me, and sometimes I'm stubborn, and I know a lot of martial artists out there were stubborn in our way, but the riches are in the niches, is what he said.
Yeah.
If you keep trying to be everything, and as much as I enjoy talking to entrepreneurs, gosh darn, they drive me nuts because they come up with the same, BS excuses that I used to come up with.
Yeah.
And I know it's BS, and they know it's BS, but they hide behind it. And I can't seem to, it's not that I can't get through to them, but it's exhausting. But when I talk to these, and teenagers, they're a tough nut to crack. But man, when you get down to their level and you're genuine, saying, look, man, I know I'm hard on you. I'm firm on you. But the reason I'm doing it, if I didn't care, I wouldn't say a word. And in reference Korea, over there, they said, if they don't care about you because you don't have the heart, you don't have the integrity, you don't have the respect, the worthiness of my attention, then I'm not going to say a word to you, because time is the most sacred commodity And I'm not going to waste my time on someone who's not worth wasting it on. That was their thing. So I tell, so I tell the players, look, if I didn't care, I wouldn't say a word. I'm hard and firm on you because I know there's more inside you. The same message I said at the Martial Arts Academy when a kid was struggling with a form or with a self-defense technique. I care about you and I want you to earn this so you know in your heart you got it. Because every day we suffer one of two types of pain. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Discipline, yeah, it's hard right now. Man, it pays endless dividends. The pain of regret, easy as can be right now, but it weighs tons in the end. I don't want you to suffer that pain of regret. So that's where I've niched down now. And I'm telling you, I'm enjoying it more than I have in the past several years because I'm not forcing it. It's like I was trying to force myself, the square peg, which I've always been, in that round doggone hole, trying to hammer that thing in there. It's just not fitting. And God's saying, man, how many times are you going to do this? Do what you enjoy the most. And I thought, well, can I really, pay all my bills? Can I really reach 1 million high achievers by just focusing on hockey? And the answer is yes. I'm going to get there a lot quicker than trying to get all this and have it everywhere. Siegler once said, the fox that chases 2 rabbits goes hungry. Chase 1. Well, I was chasing 4 or 5, and I'm wondering why I'm starving and headachy and, can't get anything done and spinning in circles. So focus on one. That's what I'm doing. And like I said, it's like a weight's been lifted.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, he's always telling me the same thing. Don't chase 2 rabbits. You won't catch but one or none. You won't catch any.
Yeah.
He's
It's
always
hard to get you one.
yeah, well, Southernized version of that. But yeah, I understand that for sure.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say that. So folks listening there, even though, once again, I'm bringing it to this point, that entrepreneur, and that's the reason I kept saying there's so many, but I was all over the place. And my wife reminds me, remember when you kept changing the curriculum because you wanted to be everything to everyone? I'm like, my wife hits me with the right hook reality. She's we've been married 27 years now, and she's put up with me for, we were together years before that. And she's so subtle, but man, can she deliver a blow.
Yeah, dynamite comes in small packages, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Dynamite in small packages for sure.
Right, yeah. So, Rich, as someone who's spoken all over and been on stages and been on podcasts and been in front of people, for years and years and years, what are some of the tips that you can give people who would have more of a tendency to stand up in front of people or go on podcast interviews and stuff that will help them in being able to connect with their audience?
Well, it all boils down to, and hopefully for listeners there, I've given, and I know I ramble on and go down different paths and this and I try and tie it all in together. But when you try to be someone you're not, it shows.
Yeah.
Chris Widener, and I keep referencing him because he's a Christian guy. He worked with Zig, he worked with Jim Rome, and just a wonderful human being. He, the message he kept trying to pound in my head was, quit trying to be so perfect. No one's perfect, and it doesn't come off genuine. So for the longest time in martial arts, especially with the organization I was with, you've got to be a master model, which is it's good. You want to set that, strong core mentorship, but at the same time, you've got to be genuine to connect with people, to let them know, because I never, ever, years ago, used to talk about being poor growing up on a farm. I was embarrassed.
Yeah.
Why are you embarrassed? That's your past. There's nothing you can do about it. That built who you are. I never used to talk about being a small person or being the underdog. I never used to talk about being bullied because I used to think, well, if I was bullied, how can I help someone else? I don't know what in the world I was thinking, but I was trying to be, like, once again, that square peg, I want to fit in that round world. I want to fit in with everybody else, and they can't know that I've got flaws. They can't know that, I've got problems, that I've been bankrupt twice, or that I didn't know what the heck I was doing for the first 15 years with the Martial Arts Academy. Oh, they want to only know about the successes, which I get it. Everybody wants to see that the end of the road. How did you get there? But you got to be genuine about what built you to get to where you're at. So on stage, what's helped me the most in the past 10 years is just being genuine, talking about things that I used to never talk about before. And my book, I know you referenced it, Becoming Bully Proof, basically, this is me as a kid, meeting me 40 years later, and we go on a journey together where the older me is teaching the younger me everything I wish I would have known. Number one, about believing in myself, about defeating that bully in my mind, about standing out from the crowd. Because we all know in our heart what's right and what's wrong. We all know. It's always that tug. Should I do this? Well, if you have to ask that, and now, actually, let me get to that point in a sec. The bully in your mind, your mind has one job, and that job is to keep you safe. So anytime you're going to venture out and do something that scares your mind's going to say, "Oh, wait a minute. Remember the last time you did that? You failed? Remember the last time you did that? Oh, remember, everybody told you you're too small, you're too short, you're not good enough." And then when you fail at that, the bully will say, remember. Well, you have to defeat that bully to keep moving forward. That's the drive you want to have. But oftentimes that gets confused with, well, maybe I should just follow along the crowd. No, you are one in over 8 billion people on this planet. You have a unique God-given talent that no one else ever will have. But you got to have the courage to use that gift, to embrace that full potential, to be who you're born to be. And you're not going to get that by kind of hanging around with a crowd, following the masses. And I was once told by at a conference, when we follow the masses blindly and don't realize what we're doing, eventually we open our eyes and realize the M is silent, and that's who we're following, and it's a stinky mess.
Yeah.
So we got to move out from the crowd. So the advice I would give to people being on podcast, these devices, as destructive as they are in some capacity, they are really good in others. Just put your phone up and start filming videos. I've got, my gosh, combined between my two channels, over 1,000 YouTube videos now. And it all started with one. And I still have my very first one I filmed. I don't know, I saw somebody doing videos. I'm like, I can do that. Well, I filmed it this way. And as opposed to this way, I had no idea what the heck I was doing. And you're going to be bad, or another mentor told me, look, man, you're going to suck until you don't suck no more. You're going to be a white belt until you're not a white belt anymore.
Yeah.
But you got to take that first step and feel comfortable with who it is. But you get all kinds of practice and just get on there. But the best thing is, don't try to be someone you're not. Be genuine. Tell your story. You have a story that no one else has, but you have to be genuine with that story. And then and I'll tell you the truth that I'm working on now is to be a better storyteller, but then connect my stories with something that people can use to take with them. I have a tendency to get everybody hyped up and jacked up, and they're ready to break through walls, break through boards and bricks, and I could do this, which is good. But now I got to give steps on how to do it and then what to do afterwards, because motivation, Zig would always say, motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing. That's why we need it every day. But I like to think, look, motivation is going to fade out unless you've got somebody to motivate you every day. The igniting the warrior spirit is igniting that heart of a champion to light that fire, that pilot light, to keep it going so you can go on without me. So that's kind of where I'm working on my next step, is storytelling to lead to a point to get you excited, but then keep you going along the way. But the answer to your question, just be genuine, be yourself, be authentic, and use your gift. I'll never be as great as Jennifer or Tommy, but they'll never be as great as me because we have different gifts.
Yeah.
And when we try to be someone we're not, we're only going to be a cheap replica instead of being the priceless original we were born to be.
Exactly. I've seen and heard a little bit with your stuff that you're doing. Legacy is really big for you, and one of the I think he's taken over the internet, at least in the business entrepreneurial space, is Alex Hormozi, and he has a lot of stoicism. I think that's how you say it, being stoic, right?
Yep.
And a lot of what he talks about is legacy is meaningless. You're gonna live, you're gonna die. Nobody's going to know who you are 1,000 years from now. So just do your best. It's kind of like his advice, but yours is a little bit different. Yours is, we need to leave a legacy. Talk
Absolutely.
about that. Why the difference?
So back to Zig. He's got a formula he calls SSSSL. We all go from struggle mode to success mode. That's the first big bridge we got to cross. And then from struggle to stability. And then the stability, once we've stabilized ourselves, then we're able to cross the next bridge into success. We've overcome the struggle. We've overcome stability. Now we moved in success in whatever we're doing. The next bridge to cross is significance. The only way to cross the bridge of significance is if we've overcome our struggle to be stable, but we've also not only been successful in our own life, but been successful in helping enough people in their life move from struggle to stability to success. Now, we're helping enough people become successful. They're successful now. They're helping other people become successful. It's sort of like throwing that pebble in the pond. You throw a pebble, what's it do? It creates ripples, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you've got a number of people throwing pebbles in a pond, you're creating a lot of ripples. I like to think, man, let's work together and pick up a massive boulder and throw that doggone thing in the pond and not only create ripples, but let's flood the banks with this stuff. So crossing the bridge from success to significance is you have been significantly successful in not only your own life, but impacting so many other people to get to their level of success, and now they're moving to significance. The last step, significance to legacy, is unfortunately a step that a lot of people don't get to. And legacy is you have been significant in so many people's lives, including the journey you've been on, including being what I like to say, the hero of your own epic story, and sharing that story, how you became a hero in your story, to mentor others. Donald Miller, in his book Story Brand, talks about, he mentioned oftentimes people are confused. They think that Obi-Wan Kenobi at Star Wars, and I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but I know the movie, but he says people think that Obi-Wan Kenobi was Luke Skywalker's hero. He said nothing could be further from the truth. Obi-Wan Kenobi was his own hero because he went through his hero's journey. He went from, he doesn't say this SSL from Siegler, but in my mind, he went from struggling to stability to success to significance, and he became a hero to himself. Now he's using what he learned to mentor Luke to go through his own hero's journey, because Obi-Wan Kenobi knew he wouldn't be always around to help Luke, that Luke would eventually have to do it on his own to become his own epic hero. So tie in what Donald Miller said back to what Siegler says with legacy. Legacy is no one's ever going to forget Obi-Wan Kenobi because he became a hero in his own life. He led a legacy. He's left a legacy. Zig Ziglar has left a legacy that continues to ripple through generations because of the significant impact he's made in helping so many other people become successful from being, just stability and backwards to the struggle mode. And here's the thing. We don't just have one, we don't just conquer one challenge. Every new challenge that comes along is a struggle, and we have to get to the stability mode of that. And a lot of times we go back to the struggle. It's a back and forth bridge, but we're able to get over that. Then we go to the next success and significance, and we have enough significance, meaning we've overcome enough battles, we've helped enough people. That is how a legacy is generated that ripples through generations, because we've done something so significant and impacted so many other lives that he creates that legacy on its own. That ripple never stops. So yes, I respect the gentleman that said that, because that's his thoughts, his opinion. These are my humble opinions, but I think truly all of us want to be, number one, the hero of our own epic story, because we want to feel like we've done something significant in life. We just didn't leave a meaningless life. On our tombstone, we've got the date we were born, we got the date we pass away, but in the middle is that dash. That dash is only that long, but really that legacy, that dash could go on endlessly forever. Even though it's only this long, what have you done inside that dash to be significant in the lives of others, to create that legacy, I like to say, ripples through generations, because it keeps just getting passed down. So back to my BHAG, my big, hairy, audacious goal. Will I ever impact a million people? I don't know. I definitely want to. It's on my heart. Am I going to do it in this lifetime? I don't know. But if I significantly impact enough people, you doggone right I am, right? That's the million mark. That's the legacy mark. That's the mark that keeps on going. This podcast we're doing right now, this thing's it's timeless. It's evergreen, as they like to say in the podcast industry. This message, we're not talking about current affairs or current politics or what's going on. Yeah, we touched on COVID, but that's for hundreds of generations. That's going to be around, right? What happened during that time. So that, to me, in my heart, is what a legacy is all about.
Sweet. Beautiful. Great words. So,
and I would love to, have a one-on-one or with someone else that, believes, what's the gentleman's name? I'm sorry.
Alex Hormozy. Yeah,
Okay.
Alex Hormozy.
Because I'm humble enough. Maybe he can convince me. Because I'm willing to learn. That's humility. Keep an open mind. Always willing to learn. But that's pretty much on my heart from what I gathered from Zig and everything I've been through.
Yeah,
Oh.
makes sense.
So what does life look like for you 5, 10 years, 15 years from now? Where are you going? What are you doing? What's ahead for you?
Yeah, and the legacy, the million high achievers. So with what I'm doing now with hockey players, I'm never usually lost for words, but it just is so right and feels so good. Because we worked with adults at our martial arts academy, and when I give presentations and this, that, but the majority of my focus, and I believe it's my God-given talent, is connecting with teenagers and young adults, talking to them. Once again, kind of my goal is to be the mentor I never had, the mentor I was always looking for, that I always needed, someone to just give me that hope, faith, and that warrior confidence. So I'm all in on the hockey program, but the hockey thing that says how to get more ice time, I've already moved ahead. I'm going to niche down, get that going in the hockey community, and then that's going to turn into how to get more playing time. So that's going to reach out to, football players, baseball players, anybody on a field to get the playing time they want. And here's the secondary part, to me, is the most important. Not only the playing time, but the leadership roles they deserve that you've worked for. Why? Because we need stronger leaders, in every capacity of life. And like we talked about earlier, Tommy, what is a leader? A leader isn't just somebody standing in front of people barking out stuff. A leader is leading intentionally with their honor, their integrity, their discipline, their respect. A leader is getting people from their struggle to their stability, to their success, to their significance. So my goal is moving forward is to turn that, the how to get more ice time, how to get more playing time. But the other part that's sometimes lost, and I'll tell you, and I just learned this. And the reason I named the hockey program How to Get More Ice Time is I wanted how to get, earn more playing time, how to lead with integrity, and all these different things that are on my heart. And the group of guys I'm working with, they came up with a program called Add 5 miles an hour to your fastball. That was their whole program. And I'm like, really? He goes, because you have to hit the pain point of your intended audience.
Yeah.
The parents, they want integrity. Yeah, they want their kids to get this. But they're sitting there watching their kids sit on the bench and thinking, what the heck can I do to get that kid more ice time? And the unfortunate thing is, he goes, they don't want to earn it. They want the quick fix, how to get it. Now, in your program, you can tell them how to earn it, how to lead with integrity, how to have character, the work ethic, and everything else, but you have to catch them. And marketing, I'm learning more and more about this. You have to give them what they want in order to help them with what they need.
Yeah.
So you give them how to get more ice time. Now I'm going to help you get that by doing the steps. But unfortunately, nobody wants, and I shouldn't say nobody, but very few people want to put in the work. They think they can get it right now. Or another guy said, you got a bleeding neck wound. You don't need a Band-Aid on that doggone thing. You need somebody to stop the bleeding so you don't die. And that's the way a lot of with the marketing. So my goal for the next 5 years is to solely focus in on this, to continue to grow this. And even though I never made it to the NHL as a player, maybe I can make it to the NHL helping with these programs on integrity, leadership, mindset, and on respect and integrity on and off the ice, and moving forward with that. So, and that is going to be, instead of me trying to hit high achievers all at once, hockey and now other sports fields to help that grow, because that's truly on my heart. I always wanted to be that. And then using that underdog spirit that I have, not being a very big person, saying, look, I got the ice time. I got the leadership roles. Why? Because of the same 3 things I'm talking about here. Respect for myself, respect for my team, respect for my work ethic on and off the ice, and communication skills, not throwing a little pity party when you don't get playing time, not having a little fit, not blended in, complaining about practice, but communicating properly with the way you carry yourself and the words you say. So that message in a whole is everything I talked about at the Martial Arts Academy, but now it's niched down. It's almost like I'm starting off again on a smaller area, but that, 30, 40 years of experience I have now, it's going to grow a lot faster. So let it grow out and let it continue to grow. But instead of trying to be so much so soon, one area, and then let it expand.
Yeah, man, this has been a lot of fun. A lot of good stuff. I was like typing notes over here. I hope everybody else was like getting a lot of good stuff out of this as well. And Rich, I just wanted to say thanks so much for coming on and being here today. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, like, how do they find you? What's the best way?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Jennifer and Tommy. I really, really appreciate it. And audience members, thank you for listening. Hopefully I didn't go down too many different rabbit holes. I always encourage folks, listen more than once, read a book more than once, simply because you're always going to pick up something more the second, third, and even fourth time. And what Zig would always say, and the reason for that is because the second or third time you're reading or listening to something, you're going to be at a different level of learning than you were before. So you're going to pick up something that it didn't resonate with you that first time. But how you get a hold of me? All the social media platforms, and I post daily. Real Rich Grogan on all the social media platforms. And my website is warriorconfidence.com, warriorconfidence.com. And I've got a little challenge going on this month. Last month in May was the Mojo Challenge. And the Mojo Challenge is all about getting, what's your mojo? It's your swagger. It's your It's you getting that mojo back so you can be your very, very best. Because when you've lost your swagger, when you lost your if you're not your best, you can't be your best to others. Well, this month is Justification June. Justifying to the only person you need to ever justify yourself to is yourself, that you are doing the right thing, that you are out there making a considered effort to be your best in order to help others be their best. But you got to justify it by doing the things you know you need to do. But all over social media, Real Rich Grogan, YouTube, check that out. TikTok, I wasn't on it for the longest time, but I finally got on it and doing those little 60-second videos, and they're quick hitters. And then on Facebook and Instagram and all the other channels.
Awesome. Well, guys, all you guys are watching this, thanks so much, and we'll see you next time on 7.